Okay, so I think we'll get started as people trickle in. The first parts will essentially be just an intro. If you've been on these before, it'll be a little bit of a recap, and then we'll get into the meat of the topic, where we will be talking about communication and how it relates to you and your Firewise communities. Quick note, elephant in the room, this is not the third Friday of the month, so you can ignore that third Friday of the month. We had to do a schedule change because of a conflict last week. So thank you all for joining us. Okay, so introductions. My name's Stephen Watson. I'm the Executive Director of Ventura Regional Fire Safe Council. I'm joined by Natasha Saxena, who's our Regional Firewise Coordinator. Many of you know her. She's incredible. And Sarah Rodriguez, who is our backbone of the organization, behind the scenes, helping out with recording, and will be helping out with chat and just Zoom interaction in general. If you're all willing, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves in the chat, write your name, the community that you're from, if you're in a Firewise community or looking to form one. Totally optional. We'd just love to see where everyone's at. Okay, so we'll start with some ground rules. Questions, we do have a section for Q&A at the end. If you have any throughout the presentation, feel free to write them in the chat. I will not be looking at the chat during the presentation, but toward the end, we will address any of the questions that come up. Natasha and Sarah will be looking at the chat and can answer any that they can just written in the chat, and we'll revisit it verbally as well. Please remember to remain on mute for the presentation. There will be instances where I'll ask for some interaction, engagement, some questions, and simply raise your hand during that point. There's a little function on Zoom to raise your hand. If you raise your hand physically, may or may not see you, just a warning. Again, this is being recorded, so if you do not want to be on our YouTube channel with your little face in the corner, feel free to turn off your camera, no problem at all. And just when it comes to the Q&A or open portions, just remember to be respectful of everyone's time. And if there are bigger conversations or longer topics, questions that are really getting deep, we'll probably take it offline or refer you to some other resources or recommend a home assessment where you can chat with someone one-on-one for a good half hour, 45 minutes. And additionally with that, any additional questions related to Firewise, if we're really getting into the weeds on one particular topic, Natasha has an area where you can schedule a one-on-one chat with her and just choose a date and time, and she'll be there for little office hours. All right, so anyone who's new to the Firewise program, we very much recommend you checking out our website, venturafiresafe.org. There is a Firewise page that has a really, really awesome Firewise in 5 video that Natasha on the call helped put together. And it goes through the whole process, what to expect, what you're signing yourself up for, what the benefits are. It's the perfect starting point. And then if you have more questions or really want to get involved and engaged, then you can keep moving on to the next steps of working with Natasha and our team. Throughout this whole portion, Natasha and Sarah, they're going to chime in if I've forgotten anything or said something wrong. In my role, I don't know the specifics of every single program, and that's why I lean on our amazing staff to help out. So I mentioned earlier you can chat with our coordinator. On our website, again, in that Firewise page, all you got to do is click this button, this yellow button that's highlighted, chat with our coordinator. It'll pop up an option for you to choose what day and time you want to chat with her, and you can have all sorts of questions, and she'll help you through the process. Okay, so for today's agenda, we will start with a little bit of upcoming events and resources. I don't anticipate that taking 10 minutes. But we'll go through a couple of the slides of some of the resources we have available and upcoming events. Then we're going to have a little presentation, and less of a presentation, more of a conversation, a discussion. You're going to be involved and engaged if you want to. And it will be geared toward Firewise communities, tangible things that you can do to increase engagement and effective communication with your community and scaling that up. Then at the end, there's going to be a Q&A section, where any questions you have about our Fire Safe Council, our services, Firewise program itself, happy to answer as best we can. If we don't know the answer, we likely know where to shoot you in the right direction. Okay, so something coming up in this year is we have a number of chipping events coming up throughout the county. On our website, venturafiresafe.org/chipper, you can see the link down below. It'll likely be linked in the chat as well. You can see where the upcoming ones are. We are still, my understanding, what was updated yesterday, is the ArcGIS maps are being finalized. So it may not let you sign up right today, but it should be within the next week or so. Also, my understanding is that curbside event for Ondulando is likely going to be including ClearPoint as well. We are just making sure those things get hashed out on our end, like expanding the map, et cetera. Just internal stuff, but we should be looking at that. So head on over to our site, check out the chipping events, and if you want to request a chipping event in your community, there's a little button form that you can fill out for that as well. Some other free programs and resources that are out there, not specifically to us, but just in general. What is specific to us is the Home Wildfire Assessment Program. If you haven't received an assessment, I highly recommend it. It is no cost, purely educational. We are not sending any of your information to insurance providers. We're not even sending it to Ventura County Fire Department. Nobody is getting this information. We know that data privacy is really important to all of you and to us as well. And as a 501c3 nonprofit, we're not beholden to any sort of, CAL FIRE is not breathing down our necks trying to get all the information from us. We only share what we want to share and what you allow us to share. And if you have had this assessment, share it with your community. We'd love to have the entire community have home assessments and have ideas of vulnerabilities or low-hanging fruit that people can do on their property in order to improve their safety from wildfire. It's also a little bit of a foot in the door. We come with other resources and education and information, and you can really get some intimate one-on-one time with some experts when it comes to wildfire safety. Another really exciting opportunity, which is free in the sense that you're basically giving them your time and donating your time. So it's really beneficial for them, but it's also really fun for the volunteers. Everyone that I've talked to, we've been out there ourselves, really enjoys working with SAMO Fund. This is Santa Monica Mountain Fund. They have a volunteer program where you can help out with planting native plants. When you're there, you can also get some free native plants as well. Additionally to that, the Malibu Forestry Union, you can see the information right there. They've got the email there as well. They have a whole native plant nursery in their division, and anyone is welcome to come and pick up 5 to 10 free plants, free of charge, no cost, share it with your friends. These are native plants. The idea is to reintroduce native plants into our ecosystem in Ventura County as best we can. Lastly, just wanting to point out or flag, it's always great. VCFD has tons of information on the website. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. We just wanted to highlight Ventura VCFD Standard 515 for local landscaping requirements. Oftentimes that does overlap and align with Ventura City. Ventura City does have their own website, and I encourage you to check out that as well. But Ventura County has a lot of resources when it comes to standards, guidelines, codes, regulations. So this is just one of those to call out. While you're on their website, you'll see other ones as it pertains to home hardening, zone 0, all this other stuff. Okay, so with that, how are we doing with time? All right, I'm not rambling too long. We're ahead on time. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about communication. I put this little comic up there because this embodies me as a person, and it's my cross, one of my many crosses to bear every single day of trying to not over-explain things, trying not to overwhelm people with information. Natasha's laughing because my emails are novels, and it's been just a work in progress. And with that, I do want to say that everything we talk about today, easier said than done. So much easier said than done. And I am human. I struggle with this as well. The idea is just to share some information, tidbits that might help with communication in your communities and getting people engaged. Okay, so what to expect. The goals for this presentation, recognizing that it's a 30-minute presentation, we're going to go over high-level topics. It might be challenging to really get into the weeds of some of these things. The idea is to help you all as Firewise leaders or Firewise residents to engage, to learn some tactics, tips, tricks on engaging with other residents, exploring the resistances. So a lot of what we come across is resistances, whether that's spoken or hidden. And that's a main part of this conversation is what might those hidden resistances be that we can actually leverage. So it's not about trying to break them down. It's about using those resistances to help with the communication and the messaging. Avoiding some common pitfalls, we'll talk a little bit about that. Some approaches and tips, some reminders to slow down when you're speaking, which is one thing I have to remind myself frequently. And then interact and have fun. I want this to be engaging. We're going to have an opportunity for you all to provide input. There's going to be a little polling thing that we're going to do live, and we'll see some of the results coming up and popping up. So I really want you guys to have fun with this and interact and engage. The other, I guess, preface, I should say, I didn't talk about myself yet. My background is actually in mental health. I came into this role about 5 years ago. Prior to that, I worked in community mental health, helped form some nonprofits in the Woodland Hills area, a lot behind the scenes. I worked as a therapist for a number of years. And with that, I learned a lot about 1 million years ago in school, in my master in psychology and counseling. A lot of it has to do with communication, barriers, listening, active listening, mirroring, modeling, those type of things that we'll talk about today. Again, I want to say easier said than done. Throughout this whole thing, you will be thinking, Stephen, you're crazy. I don't believe anything you're saying. You're not doing that yourself. And I'll say I agree. It's really hard. It's something to remind yourself. It's something to think about because we have inherent biases. We've been taught inherent ways of communicating and putting up a defense a little bit. And we'll get into that a little bit as we move on. Again, we only have 30 minutes, so I will try and go through this and not embody my usual over-explaining. Okay, so to start, I'm going to get you guys set up with how you're going to be engaged. So how it works is we have set up this app, essentially. You can scan the QR code with your phone, or we are putting the link in the chat right now. So you can access this on your computer or on your phone. And what's going to happen throughout this presentation is there are going to be questions that will pop up and you can respond. The first one's going to be a simple true-false question. And you'll respond true or false either on your phone or on your computer. I'll give you all a few minutes to try and get situated with this thing. We've put it in the chat as well. And this is my first time actually trying to incorporate this on one of our calls. And so we'll give it a shot together. If it fails miserably, we'll just ask the questions out loud and make do with it. The other thing I will mention is that totally optional. If you don't want to be included or involved, if you don't want to provide your feedback or your input, that's totally fine. If you're really struggling with the tech and getting it up and running, that's okay too. No pressure at all with this one. It's just a tool to open up conversation. Okay, so we're going to get right into the first question. When we go into the questions, it will also give reminders of how to access this. And so question number 1. Okay, so true or false? As a Firewise leader, it's really easy to get my community engaged with wildfire safety. I'll give everyone 30 seconds to a minute to respond to this one. I'm really shocked by this answer so far. And I'll say, if you're not a Firewise leader, that's okay. Just put your mind frame in the sense of, even from your lens, talking to your neighbor, talking to your friends, talking to your family, is it really easy to get everyone engaged and interested?
Just for fun, I decided to click don't know really quickly to see if it was updating. And yeah, that's me clicking don't know. And that's me not clicking don't know.
Yeah, I think we have
Unsurprising.
at least 7 responses so far.
Nice.
So it seems like it's relatively unanimous. And I wanted to start with this one because I just want to voice something out loud that what you're all trying to do is really hard. Legitimately, what you're doing is hard, and it is not simply about sharing information. You are all working to change culture. You're working to get communities invested and interested in wildfire safety, as are we. And there are tons of barriers, there's tons of resistance, and I want to validate the challenge and the hard work that all of you do with this. And the truth of the matter is, none of you are failing at this. You're really just hitting up against human behavior and human reaction and common human behavior that is normal. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like and ways that we can use that to our advantage. All right, very cool. So we're actually going to jump right into question number 2, which I'm putting a lot of trust in you all. If anything inappropriate comes up there in the recording, we're going to block it out. But for here, we'll just ignore it. So this is a free response question. In 5 words or less, what primarily motivates you to be involved in Firewise? And if you're not involved yet, or if you have thoughts or ideas of what might motivate other people, please feel free to write that in as well. And I'll give everyone a couple minutes. Ooh, I like that. The other strategic thing that I did here is I have these little poll questions in so that I can take a minute to look at my notes as well and prepare for the next slide. And feel free to write more than one response as well. You don't have to only write one. And if it's too hard to think 5 words or less, it's okay if you do 6 words or 7 words. Adela, was that what you were struggling with? And again, if you want to put additional answers or things that you think other people might be motivated for, feel free to write that in. Okay, so we are going to move on. So motivation. I put a couple things up here that actually I'm gonna take a second and read those out. So some of the things that you put, my neighbors, it's important, in honor of husband, desire to serve, house burnt down, knowledge is power. So my slide here is talking about motivation. What motivates people? You know, I noticed no one put money. And one of the things that we hear from people is, how is this going to affect my insurance? Is this going to be costly for me? What is in it for me? And that is a motivation. And what I would encourage all of you to be thinking about are things that aren't your primary motivator, but might be other people's primary motivator. And I think there's a temptation that, again, I struggle with every day. Why doesn't everyone think like me? Doesn't make any sense. It's perfectly clear to me. I'm not sure why everyone else doesn't get it. And the truth of the matter is, people aren't forgetful. People aren't dumb. They're not naive. It's simply a matter of prioritization, motivation, and often people just want to feel heard. I put something in here, local support group. So for me, another motivator that is not talked about frequently is belonging. You know, a sense of community belonging that we have seen is a really powerful kind of extra thing that came along with Firewise that we didn't anticipate from the beginning. Safety is a big motivator as well. Wildfire safety. I saw my house burnt down. I would imagine the motivation is not to have that happen again. The woman relaxing on a chair, this is supposed to represent peace of mind. So the idea here is like, you're more relaxed, you're more at ease, there's more peace of mind when you're involved in an effort to protect your entire community and neighborhood. So the main takeaways here for me are just the understanding that everyone has different priorities and no priority is better or less than the other. They're just different. And the more you can think about engaging with a community that meets their priorities and listening to them, the better you're going to get that hook and get that buy-in. Because it's all about getting a little bit of buy-in instead of trying to force things onto people, which we will talk about a little more as well. And a little pitfall with this is often, at least what we've experienced when trying to share the message about wildfire safety, free services, it's met with defensiveness. And I think if we also meet their defensiveness with our defensiveness, it'll create a debate, an argument, a loop that really starts to hinder that one-on-one connection with that person, and they're going to shut down. I will say debates and arguments work for some people. Some people want to talk this through. Some people want that, and you can ask that. You can ask what would help them. And if they say, I want to talk this through with you, great. You've got that open door now to talk, to share information, to share resources. So we're going to do the next question here. Okay, so everyone, if you're still following with me, your phones and the web browser will automatically update to this next question. So you just have to leave it open. You don't have to do anything. If you've closed it, this QR code is here and the links should still be in chat. So this question, when trying to introduce Firewise or wildfire safety information, what resistance do you most often encounter? And as many responses as you want for this one. We'll give people a minute or two to fill these out. Again, multiple responses are encouraged. Actually want to write some of these down. Oh, I saw one just disappear, but I like my trees on there. I'm going to write that down. Okay, so feel free to continue adding in. So no time to engage. Time, that's a big one that we hear. Resistance to change. Change is expensive. I see dollar signs as well. I see apathy. It's moving around, so I'm struggling to keep up with this. Cost, no soliciting, no time to engage. Fear of insurance. Definitely have heard many of these as well. Okay, so often it can feel like this image on the left. I assume it's left for all of you as well. Talking to a brick wall, right? So what are these barriers? What are we looking at? I mentioned that I have some background in mental health, and what I want to do is try and share some of those lessons that I have learned. By no means am I saying I'm an expert in communication. It's simply just offering and sharing. Have any of you heard of Chris Voss? He is a retired FBI negotiator for hostage negotiation. And he has a number of books and podcasts about negotiation and communication, and very, very interesting reads. And I encourage listening to it because it kind of changes your perspective on how to approach these type of things. Some of what I'll be talking about is pulled from that. The first thing I wrote up here is black swans. He talks about that in his book and kind of everywhere. And I think the website he has is black swan something. And the idea of a black swan, what that is, it's information, hidden information that you don't know about when talking with someone. And the whole idea and premise behind effective communication, in his perspective, is getting at that black swan, uncovering that hidden information, because it's the barrier that they are not saying. It's the thing that is holding them back from engaging that they are not saying. And if we can encourage opening up that, having that openness and lowering the defensiveness, we are going to get more buy-in. The other thing that is really big that kind of resonates with me is that people resist pressure. People do not resist information, they resist pressure. And often what we're seeing, even in this day and age, is that you can come with facts, you can come with studies, you can come with a whole research paper of information, but if someone feels like you're trying to manipulate them or cause them to change something, no amount of facts will do anything. Legitimately, people will shut down entirely. And I want to walk you through a scenario right now. If you're going to a supermarket and you have someone soliciting on the side, and they've got a megaphone and they're shouting at you, like, "Come over here, we've got really important information to share. Please come and talk to me. You need to come and talk to me." I don't know about any of you, but my brain immediately turns defensive. And I know I see a lot of people, they look down, they try not to make eye contact, they look away. And then if we switch this with someone who's kind of sitting there, really patient, and maybe they've got a sign says, "Talk to me about wildfire safety." And they're not trying to pull you in. They're not trying to yell at you to come over here. Or maybe it's a Girl Scout. They've got their cookies on display, just sitting there, not very threatening. I know we could probably find some people, or some people probably have black swans about that when I think that's child labor. I think that's child exploitation, right? And if they voice that, we can then address it, and like, let's talk about that. I'm curious to hear more, because that's an in. Listening to them, listening to their black swans is 90% of the battle. Because again, no matter how many facts we give them, no matter how much information we give them, they're going to be resistant if they feel like you're manipulating or pressuring them. Some communication traps. I fall into this frequently. I very much believe in the mission and wildfire safety, and I struggle when people don't prioritize it, right? And I think many of you can relate to that as well. This is really important. It's free information. I don't understand why people aren't taking advantage of these free services that are no cost. And then we had a homeowner 3 years ago or so genuinely give us this feedback that has stuck with me. My grandson has told me to ignore anything that anyone tells me is free. Because there's a lot of stuff out there. People are getting inundated with scams, with information. One pitfall is overwhelming people. Trying to throw everything to them at once, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be overwhelming. If you're trying to seem like you're selling something, people's radars, we've been trained these days, because I don't remember the amount. There was a study about the number of ads that we all see on a daily basis, and it's staggering. I don't have social media, but I still get ads all over. And I know everyone else is just inundated with it. Our brains are detecting that. We are training ourselves to ignore and to filter out things that we feel are just using us or manipulating us or trying to get our money. The other thing I'll note is, do your best to make participation easy. I know Ben and Nancy, all you really ask for is sign up for our newsletter. That's the start. That's it. Hear what we have to say, and then you all can make a decision on what works for you, what's right for you. Instead of, you need to do home hardening, here's when you need to do it, your house is going to burn down. I think there's a place for that. If they've shown up to the workshop or to the event, they're already ready to hear. But they may not be ready to hear on first contact. The other thing I want to mention about the inundation of information is, I don't know if it's the same for all of you, but anytime I see anything like a video online, I'm now wondering, is this real? Is this AI? What's going on? And finding fact from fiction in this internet world these days is also very challenging, which is why it's about people and relationships more than the information itself. The information is very important, but the start and getting them involved is even more important. And the last thing I'll put on this is that people are tired. People are genuinely just tired all around. And so the more that we can relate to people on a human level, the more that we will get somewhere. The other thing that Chris Voss talks about is a term called tactical empathy. And I'll explain it a little bit as I go through this, but I relate it to something that I learned from my supervisor, gosh, it must have been 13 years ago or so. She always said, empathy first, then explore. I don't know if that's grammatically correct. I don't care, but it really sat with me and it stuck with me for a very, very long time. Because what we want to do first when talking with people, this is geared toward one-on-one, but I'll show you later in this presentation how to gear it toward scaling it up to the neighborhood. So bear with me for a little bit on this. First, starting with validating. Let's take an example. I heard something about cost, and I'm trying to give me a second to catch up with my notes here. So I'll start with validating first. If we're approaching someone with, this is really, really important information, you need to take action now. It's a little different from an approach of like, it seems like this might feel like one more thing on your plate, and I get that we're all really tired, we've got a lot going on. What aspects of all this would feel like too much to you? So that's bringing them in, as opposed to saying, you need to pay attention to this, you need to pay attention to this now, and kind of creating that wall. If I were to say to you all as Firewise leaders, you know what you really need to do? You just need to get out there every single weekend. You have to go door to door. You have to talk to everyone in your community. It's really, really important that you do that, because if you don't, we're going to have another Thomas fire. And it's unethical if you don't go do that every weekend. That kind of messaging is really going to turn people away completely. And I would never say that to any of you. You are all doing amazing and doing what you can and being involved. So there's a different type of approach in getting the foot in the door that I think is really crucial. So then once you've validated at the start, you can explore, ask open-ended questions, ask them, I think I saw something about cost, money. I'm really concerned about cost. Reflect that to them. Say, sounds like really concerned that this is going to be expensive for you. What might help out with that? What could you envision helping make it more manageable? And then if they respond or if they say something great, you can go into, or we can provide you with information in response to, if there are things that are free that they can do now. Evacuation planning, that's free and that's really important. And I will preface all this. I know time is money, so there's nothing that's free in this world. However, in terms of like dollar monetary amount, doesn't cost them anything to create an evacuation plan. It's extremely important. And so we can also talk about our program. You can lean on our messaging and our wording, that there's low-hanging fruit. There are things that $200, $300 will reduce ember intrusion on your home by up to 90%. And embers are one of the leading causes of a home burning down. So we're looking at this low-cost thing that can be done. Every property is different. So we can't say across the board that your home will not burn down if you do all these steps. We get out there and we look at it and work with them to try and figure out what those low-hanging fruit, what makes sense for them. The other aspect of this is we always try to apply for grants for low-income residents, people that can't afford it. So that's another aspect and avenue in here as well, that if it seems like overwhelming to do all these changes on your home, just show up to a workshop. That's all we're asking, and listen to what we have to say, and then you can make up your mind from there. And that is the next stage of give them autonomy. So you're giving them power, and you're giving them control over their choices, their actions, the communication that they're having with you. Another thing to preface is that if you are I don't know what the word is. If you're someone unlike me that is really, really comfortable with being persistent in people's faces, and that works for you, and that's working for you, that's totally great. I don't want to downplay or down sell any other types of communication styles. There are going to be some people who respect that. I don't think it's the majority, but it may work for some people. So I will say, do what's working. If something is working, keep at it. Okay, it looks like we are on the next question here. So this one, I'm just genuinely curious about. What is your preferred method of receiving communication from your neighborhood/community? Again, and for those that have joined us now, we have this live poll. There's a link in the chat that you can go to this poll and answer in your answer to this question. You can also scan this QR code that you see on the page. So you can either open it through the link on your browser or with your phone through the QR code, and it'll prompt you with this question. And we're just trying to get a little bit engagement and interaction with you all. And this one I'm interested about because we also want to know how to best interact and engage with the residents. Oh, I had someone ask me this. Snail mail, what is that? For those of you that don't know, snail mail is just physical mail going into the letterbox. You pull it out, open it up, get lots of advertisement through there, but that is snail mail. I'll give everyone about a minute to add in some responses.
I love everyone laughing at the snail mail thing. I think most people know it was me that asked.
I was trying not to call you out.
I was like, what's snail mail? I just thought I'd share. Thank you for keeping it anonymous, though.
While we're doing this, I'm going to give another example of some resistance that we've heard from residents. And one of the things we hear is I think the government needs to do more and step up and shouldn't be putting the burden and responsibility on the residents. And I think that often what I've found my response to be, which I've been trying to work on personally myself, is the messaging that we do in workshops is that there's a shared responsibility. You know, everyone has a part to play in wildfire safety. But if I get that feedback from someone, they don't want to hear that again. And so what I would think about is, it sounds like you're really concerned that responsibility is just being put on homeowners without any support whatsoever, and the government's dragging their feet on this problem. And then you can follow up with something like, you just inspired me a little bit, and bear with me. Would it be completely ridiculous if our Firewise community was to create a committee about advocacy with local elected officials on some of our concerns? You know, so we've heard them, that their concern is valid, and maybe there's some way they can be engaged with that. I think that could be a really cool opportunity of a committee to talk about what more do we want to see from local elected officials, from agencies, from the fire safe councils. Turn it on us. Like, what more do you want to see from us as well? How can we help? So that's one example. Instead of trying to quell their concern, it's working with it. You know, it's taking that and creating something with them. And I promise you that the difference is pretty surprising, that people will be more engaged when they feel like you're listening to them. Okay, so looks like majority here is email. No snail mail. That's good to know. That's cheaper for us. No phone calls, text. We get enough spam text as it is now. Social media is low. Word of mouth and email looks like the top ones as well. Thank you for the information. The other, I'm going to get ahead of myself, so I won't comment yet. But okay, so I know many of you are probably thinking, Stephen, you expect me to have one-on-one conversations with I have 500 homes in my community. That's not realistic for me to go and do this effective communication, listening to these 500 homes. And do you really expect me to have these type of conversations with all of them? And you may be right about me being like a little crazy. I think I've been called that a number of times. But it sounds like there's a concern about it being just a daunting, impossible task when we put it like this. And so what I will try and show right now is we can scale up this mindset into something that isn't just a one-on-one engagement. So how do we apply this philosophy, this psychology to a community? One of the ways is preemptively identifying barriers. So you'll notice at the start of this workshop, I was actually identifying some of the barriers with you all. You know, the easier said than done. You heard me say that, right? And so I was preemptively thinking that that may be a barrier for some of you as well, and addressing that early on. And hopefully that increased and let down some of the defenses where throughout this whole presentation, you weren't thinking, he thinks this is so easy. He doesn't know the half of it, right? So I'm hoping none of you had that thought because it was preemptively addressed. And so what we can do in our messaging, in our marketing, is think about those barriers that we talked about before. What are some messaging, some wording that we can input that addresses some of those barriers? This feels like a lot. This feels overwhelming. We can make it more bite-sized or more friendly. Come to a meeting and learn more. You know, very simple ask. The other thing to note is understanding preferences. That was the question before. How do people want to receive information? It looks like email was the number one way for sure, as well as word of mouth. So I think there's a combination of that. Ben and Nancy, I think you guys are doing an incredible job up there. And I remember your first priority going into this is we got to get a mailing list. We got to get an emailing list. Some of you that are, I don't know if anyone here is part of an HOA, they already kind of have those lists available and they can send out information that way. You kind of got a leg up there. Those who don't, there's a little bit of groundwork involved, and we can help out as well with home assessments, offering your Firewise community newsletter sign up in those home assessments for people to sign up as well. That's an important component to it of like understanding how people want to receive information. Another thing is community polling. Maybe it's as simple as what we did today. How do you want to hear about this? Do you want to hear about this? What would work for you? You know, and getting this idea and buy-in and feedback from the community to be able to adjust. Maybe you'll ask a question about those barriers. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the barriers? Let's honestly open that up. And maybe it can be anonymous so people don't feel afraid to give their black swans, the hidden responses, the hidden barriers beneath it all. Okay, and then we are going to move into question number 5. I'm checking my time. It looks like I have a minute. I'm gonna go over a couple minutes, just putting that out there. Question number 5. So what has been the most successful and engaging method you've used or have witnessed when it comes to community with your neighborhood, to communicating with your neighborhood? I probably confused everyone more. So again, there's a link in the chat if you want to open up the browser. If you've kept it open, it will automatically adjust to this. There's a QR code here for your phone to be able to provide feedback.
Just an FYI, if it hasn't changed the question yet, you can refresh your page and it'll update. It was just doing that for me, so I wanted to shout that out.
Yeah. While we're all doing this, and I'll give you a couple minutes, one of the things I was also thinking about when it comes to pressure and the idea that people respond pretty adversely to pressure, I imagine many of you have been following Zone Zero throughout the state, and there was a lot of pushback, especially in Southern California, because people felt like Northern California, which is where Board of Forestry, CAL FIRE, they kind of reside, Sacramento, making these regulations, we're trying to apply things that fit up there into Southern California ecosystems, you know, and environments and urban infrastructure. And no matter what the Board of Forestry said, they even incorporated some changes, some recommendations, some different wording, methodology, etc., people still felt very, I don't know what the word is, government overreach to some extent, unrealistic expectations. You know, it really created a big response and feedback. And I do have to give credit to Board of Forestry. They've started to take that in and incorporate it. There are potential other options when it comes to the regulation. And as soon as I saw that happen, I also saw a relief in the community vocalizing against Zone Zero, because people felt heard, they felt listened to. It took a while. I will say it took a while for Board of Forestry to hear that. When they came down and had workshops in Southern California, I think they got the message. And so that was just an interesting thing that I was thinking about, how it relates to this whole large scale communication. Okay, so what has been most successful and engaging? We've got workshop, lead by example. Oh, I like that. Flyers at the door, email. Small group meetings, great. Block party, I think that's awesome. I think if you can have some fun interacted and pieced into this, you're going to be more likely. What I don't see here is free food. That's a big one. Free food will get people to show up. Listos California, great. And then I'm actually going to jump right into the next question, because we are kind of getting short on time. I want to allow for Q&A as well. This next question is entirely selfish. So in what way can you envision VRFSC, that's our organization, best helping in terms of communication with your Firewise community? We want feedback. I would love to hear some ideas, some thoughts. There's no wrong answer. You can shoot for the moon. I can't promise that we can address all of this. We have to get funding and grants, and it's a big whole thing, but I would love to hear what you all think might help most. And I'll give you a couple minutes. And thank you all for your participation on this. I've really enjoyed getting to see some of the responses.
And as you oh, sorry, Stephen.
Oh, go ahead, Natasha.
From the last question, we also had someone say AB 38 as an answer to the last question.
I already forgot what the last question was. The successful engagement.
Yes, successful engagements.
And while you're adding in some other ones, and feel free to write as many responses as you want. The more the merrier for this one. We'd love to take into consideration some of these and figure out how we can help more. I'll say, kind of in a nutshell, wrapping up with my portion, I believe, and I am totally okay if any of you disagree with me on this, I believe that if people feel heard and feel like they're listened to and engaged in that manner, they will change their engagement. They will show up to a meeting. There are going to be people who simply do not have the time or energy, and that's okay. We can work with that, and we can try and help make things simpler. Another thing that I thought about that was in my notes and I didn't mention, the cost portion of it. Firewise communities are well positioned to reduce costs on a neighborhood scale. So we're experimenting right now with contractor RFP, one contractor going out doing the work on 20, 30 homes. And that will significantly reduce the cost for everyone involved in that neighborhood. And so that is a huge benefit to being part of a Firewise community and a network. Whereas if they were trying to solve it alone, it would actually be costlier for them. And just extremely overwhelming trying to find, who do I find for a contractor? Where do I go for this? I'm not even sure what to ask for. It's just a network of information and people that can spread the word and share lessons learned. Okay, so I will read some of these here. Homeowner grant, great. Speak at HOA meeting, more outreach, provide speakers, release emails, resource of vendors. Ooh, I like that one. So we will write all these down and we'll be able to keep these on the end. Since this is my first time using this, I don't know if you'll still be able to send in answers after this is done. But if you can't, reach out to Natasha, reach out to me, send us your input, your feedback, what more you want from us. really would be happy to help. If you want, Andy Ortega is our board president. He loves going out and speaking at some of these events and really getting the emotional connection and buy-in from the communities with his story and his perspective. So we don't, even though our staff capacity might be strained at times, we have a board of directors, volunteer board of directors as well, that would be happy to come out and speak at events. So just ask. Okay, so with that, I just wanted to thank you all for your engagement, participation. I did want to make sure we left some time for Q&A. If there are anything from that really stood out to you, or if there were light bulb moments, I would love to hear about that and open it up. It's okay if there weren't any. I won't be offended, but we'll go into Q&A as well as light bulb if you've got any. And thank you so much for joining us. It's always great seeing how many of you are so engaged. For anyone that has a question or wants to provide a comment, the easiest way to do so is raising your hand, and there's a little react. It looks like a heart in your Zoom, and you just hit the little raise hand button. Adela, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I found it. Thank you. Very quickly, I'm the one who posted about the AB 38. My question is specifically for the city of Ventura. Does the Firewise inspection qualify as a specified inspector for that AB 38, which for those folks who don't know is the state requirement, the state law when a property transacts. In other words, when you're selling your property, there's things that you have to do, including providing a specific, providing an inspection. Does the Firewise inspection qualify?
So it has to be done by the fire department for the AB 38 inspection. So our home assessment would not work for that one, but we have a ton of information on where to go to, who to talk to for Ventura County, for Fillmore, for Ventura City, because each one has different representation for that. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, and I know that they're available for the county, but the city of Ventura has its own fire department, and that's who I'm not hearing from. And I know we work really closely together, so I just wondered if they outsourced you. So I know
they don't.
Yeah, the law is written the way it's written.
It would be nice. We're just not positioned to be able to be that like sign-off lens on that part, since we're purely educational. It's been explored. We'd be interested, but yeah, not yet.
Thank you. And I loved everything you've said. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
I'd just add to that, if anybody's curious about what Adela is talking about, you can go to Ventura City or Ventura County Fire Department has this guideline 427, and it'll share a little bit more about AB 38 and what the requirements are. And I'll drop a link in the chat for it too. And while our inspections have nothing to do with that inspection, it is kind of nice to get an educational standpoint sometimes first before you get the official inspection from the fire department, just to know what to expect. So I'd encourage anyone to follow up with the home hardening assessments there too. But thank you for your question, Adela.
And I didn't get to say this before, but nice to see everyone who's on the camera now that I didn't mention. Terry, Dave, Jim, Mark, good to see you all. Thanks for coming. Any other questions? You can also raise your hand physically. We'll be spotting that. Okay, Ben and Nancy, and then we'll go to Mark right after.
I'm just so excited about how many Firewise groups there are. I mean, it's an exponential growth, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's just fantastic. And so we're looking forward to meeting with the new Firewise groups in Ventura and working together, answering questions. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of our main goals is to create a network of Firewise communities, and have that was part of the selfish reason of having that, what form of communication. We're trying to pull that too, like what works for everyone. We've tinkered around with different ideas of platforms or chats or whatever it might be for Firewise communities and Firewise leaders to start bringing everyone together. So still infancy, but we'll keep hosting events, annual outreach events, things like that. Thank you. Mark.
Yes, some of the challenges that we have as a new community organization, and I'm speaking of ClearPoint in this case, is the collection of data. And there are requirements as part of preparation of a plan as well as monitoring the implementation of the plan and continuing to qualify as a Firewise community. Is there an opportunity to have access to tools that have been developed by other communities or by the Ventura Regional Authority to do such things as data collection on time and expenses, or the reports that are generated from inspections, which would give us a more accurate reading as to how many home inspections are being done, what the findings have been, and who of our neighbors have implemented the recommendations. And if it's important to maintain anonymity, well, then those data could be anonymized and made available to us to assist us with our measuring of progress and the performance against plan and setting priorities.
I'm probably going to ping this over to Natasha because I think she gets this question quite a bit. But from my end, I know that we have, when Firewise communities wonder like how many assessments have been done in my community, things like that, we can provide that type of data. I have to talk with Max, our person who's like the home assessment whiz, about like feasibility of specifics of the data and making it the way that you kind of brought it up. I think it's possible, but I'll just have to double check for sure. But we have for sure said like how many assessments. I think there are tools out there to answer your question, and I've seen other Firewise communities do various things. So if any of the Firewise communities have things that have worked for them, that would be a great opportunity for them to share. I know there have been websites put up where people can enter in information on a website to track that. But Natasha, if you have any other tidbits for that one or any other residents, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I think you answered that wonderfully. Just to add a little bit more context there as well. So we do offer, if you reach out to me, if you email me directly, I can share how many assessments we've done. I would just ask that you email me periodically whenever you want that number. Right now, we don't have a system to actually share that out, so it's kind of just by request. We do keep all of those, and I think what my understanding of the question is about home assessments, right? Like how many home assessments are being done? Great, I see you're nodding your head. So we don't share the data on who, but we do get requests every now and again asking, hey, can you share an email out to everybody that received an assessment? And we can do that on your behalf. So we really pride ourselves in confidentiality with these assessments, which is why we cannot share that data, but we can send a message to them on your behalf and share the number. So just reach out to me with the email whenever you want that information.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
And I'll save Natasha a little bit. Please be patient with her with responses. She has so many emails from so many communities, so it might take a week or two to kind of get that information back. But she's usually very responsive. But I just want to give her the benefit of the doubt when it comes to responsiveness.
Thank you, Stephen. I always appreciate that. Yeah, I would second that too.
So we've got time for maybe one or two more questions or comments. If not, we'll kind of wrap up. But I'll stay quiet for a little bit and listen. I
also just wanted to share that I think the thing that stood out to me most out of your presentation, Stephen, was the empathy first, then explore. That one really struck with me because no matter how many Q&As I do, that's like a simple thing to just remember, but it's so easy to forget in the moment as you're doing a Q&A. And oftentimes I want to bombard somebody with the information, but actually letting them know that they've been heard, validating them, and then exploring that with them. I think that goes a really long way. So I love that one.
And just on that note, you'll probably know this even thinking back. When you're doing those Q&As, when you get those questions, or when residents are asking different questions, you'll be feeling a pressure from them to give information, to answer, to respond initially, and trying to pause for a second and like reflect and validate what they've said or what they've voiced first can also kind of help reduce that pressure in you as well.
So true.
Okay, so any last questions or comments before we close out for today? All right, well, I will thank you all for joining us. And please, I know you already do this, so I guess I'm preaching to the choir here, but share the word. Let people know. These workshops are recorded as well. So if anyone's missed it and you think it would be useful for anybody, they're on our YouTube channel, on our website as well. In the Firewise, you can go to past workshop recordings. Should be accessible. If you can't find it, reach out to us. We'll happily show you where they are. So you can share these resources, and thank you all again. Really enjoy seeing you all.